Equations have been used in society since ancient Egyptian and Babylonian times. People in Egypt and Babylon learned how to solve linear equations and quadratic equations. This is interesting to me as we use some of the same steps in today's society that they used all those years ago to solve similar equations. I am going to show you all throughout this movie how to solve 1 and 2 step linear equations. The overall goal in solving an equation is to get the variable alone on one side of the equation. This will allow for a number to be located on the other side to represent what the variable equals. The first step needed in solving a one-step equation is to decide what function is needed to get the variable by itself. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side as well. This accounts that there will be a 0 on the side of the equation where it was originally at. Let's use the example x plus 2 equals 4. The first step we need to take in order to solve this equation is to move the 2 to the other side of the equal sign. When moving a number across the equal sign, you must do the opposite of the sign in front of the number. In order to solve this, we must subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. This eliminates the 2 on the side with the variable accomplishing the goal of getting the variable alone. Now we subtract 2 from 4, leaving us with 2. We have now solved this equation, giving us that x equals 2. Now let's use an example that contains multiplication and division. Let's use the example 9x equals 27. The same steps are used in this example as the previous one. We must get the variable alone on one side of the equation, and since we are multiplying by x, we must use division to eliminate the 9 on the side with the variable. We then divide 27 by 9 to figure out what x equals. After dividing, we discover that x equals 3. Solving one-step equations are fairly simple, but we must remember that whatever we do on one side, we must do to the other side as well. Now that we understand the steps needed to solve a one-step equation, let's learn the steps needed in solving a two-step equation. We still have the same overall goal of getting the variable alone on one side of the equation. We're just adding one extra step in to get to this goal. The first step needed in solving these kinds of problems is to turn the equation into a one-step equation. We do this by moving that number that is not connected to the variable to the opposite side of the equation to turn into a one-step equation. Now let's use the steps in order to solve a two-step equation. Let's solve 9x plus 2 equals 20. The first step we must take is to subtract 2 from both sides to turn it into a one-step equation. This leaves us with 9x equals 18. The next step needed to solve this example is to divide each side by 9. This step accounts for us getting the variable alone on one side of the equation. After dividing each side by 9, we are left with x equals 2. We are only adding in one extra step to solve two-step equations, and that step turns the equation into a one-step equation. I hope this movie has helped in learning how to solve one and two-step equations. If you ever get stuck in deciding how to solve these, just remember to solve the problem one step at a time to reach the ultimate goal of getting the variable alone on one side of the equation.